How are we all doing today? Today is a great day. Today we're unboxing special Seiko watch. This is the SNJ031. This is a new SafARNie, and this SafARNie has got the green coloration. The other one that we'll be looking at later, is the khaki color, the two new colors that have come out. So let's talk about this watch a little bit here. As you can tell by the shroud on it, it's got the tuna DNA, but the shroud really isn't as large as real tuna shrouds come to be. But this is a special watch. Why is this a special watch, and why am I calling it SafARNie? We're going to get into it. A lot of you probably know already, but it's kind of nice to kind of explain it a little bit to those of us who do not know. Okay, so the SafARNie is a mixture of the two words safari and Arnie. So safari because they're safari colors. Seiko calls them Street Series. They started doing this Street Series a few years ago where they take their traditional models, they did it with the tunas, and they changed the colors up, try to make them a little more hip looking. So they call it the Street Series. And one of the big models that came out last year was the Arnie. Now the Arnie, I'll get into it. It's got a pretty cool history. It's big, but Arnie stands for Arnold Schwarzenegger. So Arnold Schwarzenegger, one of the biggest deals in the 1980s and 1990s, big action star, and he wore this watch. Yep, he wore it in movies. And let's get down to it. You can see here me pushing the buttons. It's definitely a water resistant watch. Every button screws down. You keep it all nice and light and tight. So let's just talk about the Arnie. So why is this called the Arnie? Well, this watch first came out, well, the original one that this watch is based off of, the original one was black with stainless, so like a black and silver color, the black and stainless. It was the Seiko H55-8, and that's the model that Schwarzenegger wore, and he wore it in several of his movies. The reissue here, what we're looking at is a different color variation, and the markers are a little different too. The original watch has the circular markers, while this one changes it up and gives you more of that angular, rectangular markers on the watch. So the original one, again, it's black. I've done a video on it before, and that came out. It was first talked about in Basel World 2019, and here we got, Seiko, they'll make something that's close to the original, and then they start hybriding it out, kind of changing it up a little bit. So this is a fusion here of the Street Series, and here you can see it with the khaki colors. It's a fusion of, their Street Series and the Arnie series, and that's why you got these khaki colors. At first, when you see them, you're like, maybe that's too khaki, and maybe that green is just the green, in the photos looks a little bit better, I guess, than the khaki. But when you see them in real life here on the video, you can kind of see the coloring. It's a cool looking watch. It's very different. If you want something to beat around in the collection, it's great. You can see the toothing here on the bezel and everything. It's definitely a worker watch. It's a worker bee, so it looks great. And so, okay, so the first one, let's get back. I know kind of going all over the place here, telling you about how cool this watch is and how cool these watches are. So it first came out in 1982, and that was the H558, and that was a fan favorite when it came out. First of all, this watch was important not because of who wore it, and certainly that's what made this watch a celebrity watch. It became known for Arnold Schwarzenegger, but that this was the first hybrid watch where you have the digital screen there and the analog dial. So you have the analog and the digital fused together, and that was the H558. So it was really cool. Besides Arnold Schwarzenegger, you also have, it was one of the James Bond watches. Yes, James Bond, who was in the books known for having, wearing a Rolex Submariner, and in the movies as of late, the Omega watches. But no, in 1985, A View to Kill, one of the Roger Moore James Bonds, um, he was in A View to Kill, and James Bond wore this hybrid watch. It was, a technical thing. It was a cool thing that kind of came out with the digital on the analog. So it was his watch. So that's pretty cool. For Arnold Schwarzenegger, though, he's the one who really, really put this watch on the map when it came to everybody knowing about it. Why? Because Arnold Schwarzenegger loved this watch. This is a very military-looking watch, and it was perfect for the character that Arnold Schwarzenegger played. He often played, highly skilled military people, and some of the movies that you can see the watch in is Commando in 1985, Raw Deal, which came out in '86, I believe, Predator, one of my favorites, of course. After I heard about this watch coming out and the series, made me want to watch Predator again, and that one, of course, came out in '87, and then finally Running Man came out in '87 as well. Here you can see the watch on my wrist. The watch is a big watch. I'm not going to kid you. It is big, and it's a watch that really gets noticed, but it's just got such a cool factor to it. My wrist is about a 7.5-inch wrist. The watch size itself is 47.8, but the way the lugs are designed to fit kind of underneath the watch, it feels better, it feels tighter, it feels like it's made for your wrist more. Seiko does that a lot. So the model numbers are the SNJ029 for the khaki color, and the green is SNJ031. I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to watch this video.